Hi everyone, my name is Jake Barrett, and I'm going to be talking about Russia's Sputnik 5 vaccine and how Eastern European countries and the European Union have been harmed by using it. So, Russia produced the Sputnik 5 vaccine in last summer, and it was the first registered COVID-19 vaccine on the market. It was met with a lot of skepticism. People were wary of how fast it was produced and the efficacy it would have and the health effects that it might bring to those who choose to be vaccinated by it. So the first country to actually purchase the vaccine from Russia was Slovakia, and at the time they bought about 200,000 doses because they had the highest per capita death rate, and it was the first vaccine at the time. It was seen as sort of like their last hope. They thought it was a cheap way to fix their problem. But Slovakia has a very pro-Western government, and before, a couple months prior to purchasing the vaccine, had adopted a new security strategy of it was just unwavering support of NATO and holding a wariness of Russia in all that they do within their entire foreign policy. So Slovakia, after purchasing the doses of vaccine, had received a lot of backlash from the EU, and Matović, which is the Slovakia's former prime minister, was accused of secret dealings with Russia, and succumbing to, this is quoted by one of the foreign ministers of Slovakia, Ivan Krovek, a tool of hybrid war that casts doubt on work with the European Union. So Matović sort of went against his government's policy and the wants of most of his co-workers, and by actually purchasing this vaccine. He eventually had to step down amidst all the backlash, and Slovakia is a very fragile government as it is, and he eventually traded jobs with the finance minister, which is a very within the Slovakian government, a very demoralizing switch, and in an effort to sort of keep the fragile government functioning. Some of the other countries' responses to it was that Lithuanian prime minister was quoted as saying that Putin offered the vaccine to the world as a weapon of divide and rule. Poland had said that they were considering buying the Chinese vaccine, despite the vaccine having similar concerns to the Sputnik. They purely just said that they will not be purchasing any Russian-made vaccine, pretty much purely out of principle. And with a lot of different polls showing a bunch of Eastern European countries like Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Hungary, that around 1% of people were willing to be vaccinated by the Russian Sputnik vaccine over American and European brands. And Hungary, which is the only country still inoculating its citizens with the Russian vaccine, only about 4% actually want the Russian vaccine, want the Sputnik vaccine. So it's met with a lot of skepticism throughout Europe, and there's a big divide between the people and the government who's choosing to use that vaccine. It also recently became known that Russia's primary goal with releasing this vaccine was to target smaller and more vulnerable countries, ones who have more fragile governments and are more susceptible to collapse. For a year, for example, in Slovakia, Russia-controlled news sources produced anti-vaccine sentiment, promoting conspiracy theories like it would put nanochips in your body and other things like that have been sent out recently. But once Russia had produced the Sputnik, the narrative of all of those different news sources instantly changed, in a drop of a hat, to the Sputnik being Slovakia's sort of last hope as a country. But all the while, these news sources maintained an anti-Western vaccine sentiment. And with a lot of skepticism for Western vaccines. And it's believed by most European leaders and Eastern European leaders that the main goal of the vaccine was to create distrust in Europe's medicine regulator, whether it be due to Russia knowingly producing a faulty vaccine, one that would cause a variety of different health side effects, and Europe allowing it to go through and be distributed and administered to different European citizens, and to create divisions between European countries. Obviously, different countries within the EU have different relations with Russia, and the use of the vaccine would create a deeper divide than there already currently is. And finally, after Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, there's been a disassociation from Russia with the majority of European countries, and this was sort of seen as an act of revenge by Russia to try and topple the governments of the smaller countries who were distanced themselves from Russia, and it was so pretty much there is no positive effects that the vaccine is sort of currently seen as having within Europe. It's really seen as a tool to divide and, in the worst cases, give poor health side effects to those receiving the vaccine and to dismantle smaller governments that are more susceptible to attacks like that from larger governments. Thank you.